right, so this is what you guys have been waiting for. We've got a big update on the Nintendo Direct that's supposedly happening next week. We've got two big insiders with Nate the Hate and Jeff Grubb that are putting in the work to let us know what's happening here. So we're going to go over that and the expectations, in addition to a bunch of big Nintendo Switch 2 updates for AAA games that you guys are looking forward to in good franchises. Nate the Hate, he had his highly anticipated Nate the Hate podcast returning after the bombshell one that he had a couple of months ago where he talked about Star Fox and a bunch of stuff that actually happened. But now we have him talking about the Nintendo Direct. People have been wondering when Nintendo is going to have it. We did hear from him that it was going to be mid-June, but that's all that he said. And now in a new Nate the Hate podcast episode, he states that it's going to be next week as of the time that I'm recording this video. So next week for it. Now, he didn't give a specific day. He just said next week. So be on the Nintendo Direct alert watch here. But we did get a little bit more of an update from Jeff Grubb as well, where he stated that he's heard that the Nintendo Direct will be on Tuesday, June 9th. So a little bit less than a week from now, at least from Wednesday that I'm recording this video, that we should get that next big Nintendo Direct. And it does seem, based off of everything here, that it's going to be a standard Nintendo Direct. Now, obviously, it could still maybe be a partner, but it does seem, just seem, like it's going to be a regular Nintendo Direct with big first-party games, in addition to big third-party games. Now, in my previous video on the Nintendo Direct update, I went over stuff that I felt needed to be there. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I think that's going to be a highly rated, I think that's going to be a really good game, so that needs to have a great showing with a release date. I think having even something like the Duskbloods, having that have a good showing, giving us more information. We've only seen it one time in that first trailer. We haven't really seen combat or what the game is going to be about. How does the PvE and PvP work? So we need to see more about that game, get us some more details, how combat is, weapons, and release dates, all that type of stuff for those type of games. We also need some reveals for big titles that were unannounced. So if there is something that Nintendo has for the rest of this year, let us know about it, because we've been waiting on Fire Emblem and the Duskbloods games that are coming out at some point with the release dates. So get us some other big new types of reveals, get us some more classic revivals, whatever they can do. They definitely need to unleash that at this next Nintendo Direct. Now, the big thing here that everyone's going to want to know and talk about and all of that is like what's going on with the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. That's something that Nate the Hate revealed back a couple months ago on the podcast that he had, and now it's been backed up by a couple other people as well. So it does seem like it is happening, and people have gotten way more excited about this because they saw the level of detail that was in Star Fox and how they brought that back as a remake of Star Fox 64, but with a bunch of new twists. Obviously, phenomenal new graphics, but in addition to that, you have the cutscenes, you have the battle mode. There's a bunch of little things here and there based off of the updated preview that Star Fox is looking to be pretty special as a remake of Star Fox 64. So if they're putting that level of care into Star Fox, what's going to happen for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time? The 40th anniversary for The Legend of Zelda also happening, so could we see The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD? These are games that people have been waiting on for quite some time. They almost remind me of the new Metroid Prime 1 HD and the still missing Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3. What's happening with those? So I do think that maybe even that happens. Maybe we finally get Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 coming back in some type of way on the Nintendo Switch 2. So there's a variety of different things that Nintendo can talk about here, and we're still in the midst of big games coming out, like Star Fox this month, Splatoon Raiders next month as well, Rhythm Heaven is also coming out, so there's still a number of titles. It's exciting times when it comes to what's happening here, but I think that this Nintendo Direct definitely needs to be a great Nintendo Direct. Nintendo hasn't had the standard Nintendo Direct since September of last year. They did have the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Some people liked it, some people did not like it. Didn't necessarily hit over well with everyone because people were complaining that they didn't have those big Nintendo first-party games there. But I think now with the longer development periods and kind of how Nintendo's incorporating third-party developers a lot more, because we're starting to see a lot more big games come over AAA titles and more closer to the release of those games on other platforms, I think that that's the reason why things are kind of a little bit later when it comes down to Nintendo's big first-party games. But they're still doing a pretty good job of releasing a consistent flow of games, pretty much having a game a month for 2026 so far, and last year they pretty much had a game a month plus for 2025. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the Nintendo Direct, if Nate is correct here. But if Nate and Jeff Grubb are both saying next week, I do think it's going to happen next week, and I talked about that in my video as well. I said that Nintendo Direct is probably going to happen on June 9th, 10th, or 11th, or at the latest June 16th, 17th, or 18th. So it does seem like maybe June 9th, Tuesday, is the day, but we'll have to wait and see. Nintendo will probably make an announcement on Monday if it is going to be on Tuesday. But speaking of announcements, I do want to talk about another game here, Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. This is a big AAA remake of the original Tomb Raider game, and it is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, apparently day and date with PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So let's talk about this here. So Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis is on its way to Nintendo Switch 2, recently revealed. The game will launch on February 12th, 2027. Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis is a reimagining of Lara Croft's first adventure. The visuals have naturally received a major overhaul, but there will also be updated gameplay, plus, quote, new surprises that honor the spirit of the original. Those playing on Nintendo's console can expect the same cinematic scale and fluid gameplay, fully optimized for the hardware. Now let's learn a little bit more about this. So experience the pinnacle of adventure with Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, a stunning reimagining of the 1996 genre-defining game. As Lara Croft, harness your wits and athleticism to explore exotic locations lost to time, from the jungles of Peru to the ancient ruins of Greece, the deserts of Egypt, and the mysterious Mediterranean islands shrouded in myth. Traverse treacherous landscapes, solve deadly contraptions, and face lethal predators as you hunt for the scattered pieces of the Scion, an artifact of immeasurable power. Whether you're a veteran raider or new to Laura's world, Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis delivers jaw-dropping visuals powered by Unreal Engine 5, modern game design, and new surprises while honoring the spirit and atmosphere of Lara Croft's debut adventure. So, I've said this before, if you've caught my live streams or sometimes even with videos, I'm not a big Tomb Raider fan. I'm not a huge Tomb Raider fan at all. I did not like the original game back when it came out. I played it, I felt that it was clunky, and I did not like it, and I do not usually like Tomb Raider games. Now, have I played a lot of Tomb Raider games? Yes, I've played a bunch of Tomb Raider games over the years, but I've never really been the biggest fan of Tomb Raider. What I like about this announcement is that you're getting a big AAA type of title that's launching apparently day and date. I mean, there still could be a delay for the Switch 2 version because this game was definitely in development well before the Nintendo Switch 2 was even a thing, and probably developers even had dev kits. So I do think that there could still maybe be a delay, like we saw with another game that we're going to talk about here a bit with Batman. But I do think that it's cool to see that they're adding on the Nintendo Switch 2 as part of that. They did the whole Tomb Raider 2013 game on the Switch 2 and had success. They did it on Switch 1 and Switch 2 and had some success where it jumped up to the top of the charts very quickly. So I do think that if you're going to bring Tomb Raider out in today's day, especially with the Xbox Series waning in popularity, you need that next console to kind of take up the mantle. You need to actually support it with games, and it's selling well. So it makes sense that they wanted to bring Tomb Raider to the Nintendo Switch 2. And here's the thing. Tomb Raider is usually one of the things that skips Nintendo platforms. There are not many Tomb Raider games over the years. Now, in recent memory, yes, they were able to bring some of the Tomb Raider remasters over to the Nintendo Switch 1. You can play them backwards compatible Nintendo Switch 2. But before that, when it comes to the Wii U, if you look at what they said with Tomb Raider 2013, look at what they said then, and look at what's happening now, there is a clear shift. And even like with the Wii, I know there was like one Tomb Raider older game or something like that. Maybe on the GameCube there was a Tomb Raider game or so, but Tomb Raider is not known for having the big new titles day and date on Nintendo platforms. So to see it come over at this point and be announced in a somewhat timely fashion, because I think this game was announced last year at the Game Awards, I think that's pretty cool, but there's still quite some time before the release. It's not coming out till next year. Unreal Engine 5, so we'll see how that works out, but they feel pretty confident about it. They do have the Unreal Engine 5.8 update that should help out when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and getting Unreal Engine 5 games to run and look a bit better. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this works out, and I might check it out based on how the game shapes up with some of the reviews and how I see the gameplay and all that, because once again, I did not like the original game at all, really. But obviously this is a reimagining. It's gonna play and control a lot better, not so blocky like the original game was. But speaking of something that's actually built to be a bit more blocky, let's talk about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Now we finally have a Nintendo Switch 2 release date and trailer. This game was supposed to launch day and date. Batman recently launched on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, but they delayed it. So let's talk about it here. So the Switch 2 version of Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight will launch on September 18th. Publisher Warner Bros. Games and developer TT Games announced. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight first launched for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam and Epic Game Store on May 22nd. So here's a little bit of an overview of the game as you guys are checking out this release date trailer. So Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight is a brand new open world action adventure video game that invites players to embark on Bruce Wayne's epic journey to become the hero of Gotham City. Inspired by decades of Batman films, television, comic books, and games, and jam-packed with Batman nostalgia, DC lore, and TT Games' signature brand of fun-filled Lego humor. So this is the trailer for the game, and it looks like it's shaping up pretty nicely based off of what I've seen here. It's unfortunate for the delay. I know a lot of people did not like the fact that the game was delayed, but I'm pretty sure, once again, just like other games, they were definitely developing this game before the Nintendo Switch 2 was really even a thing with the development kits and all of that, and they probably just needed a bit more time to make sure that it didn't run and look terrible on the Nintendo Switch 2. So it makes sense that, hey, look, instead of putting it out and it has a bad version of the game and people say, man, this is trash compared to the other versions, delay it a little bit, work on it, make sure that it runs and looks good. Now, they didn't show too much in the trailer here. It's pretty small. I think that they're probably still working on it, but they were able to nail down the release window, and it launches in the pit. That is September. After the recent state of play, pretty much every game seems to be launching in September and completely avoiding the behemoth that is Grand Theft Auto 6 that's launching in November. Everyone's just moving all of their games to October or to September to just get out of the way, and really nothing for December at this point. So another game in September, but once again, I think that this is a game that people are looking forward to playing, and it's a good rated game based off of what we saw for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So Lego Batman fans can rise up and be excited about that one. But something that gets me a bit more excited, because I'm not really into the Batman games as much when it comes to Lego, at least, is Rayman Legends Retold. We've got some more information on this game, some Switch 2 details specifically, because this version of the game is looking pretty cool. We got some updates from the developers. VGC talked about this with them, and apparently Rayman Legends Retold was in development before the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced, but the team felt adamant that Rayman could not skip a Nintendo platform, and I have to agree with that. Rayman definitely cannot skip a Nintendo platform, considering how the sales usually shake out with that type of game, and just the fans just in general. More people are willing to buy 2D platformers and play 2D platformers on Nintendo consoles compared to Microsoft and Sony consoles, so it definitely makes sense. If you look at the specs of it, they're aiming for 1080p output on handheld and 4K when docked, so it's nice and ambitious there. They're also aiming for 60 frames per second. That's going to be the target frame rate for the game on Switch 2. And they also say that the amount of detail in the PS5 version is approximately the same as on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, obviously, the PS5 version is going to look a bit better just because it's the PS5. That's a more powerful system, but they are looking for it to be close. when it comes to the Switch 2. And all of this is cool because Rayman Legends Retold, if you don't know, it's a remake of the original Rayman Legends, but they've added in a bunch of new content. You now have 3D levels that they've worked on a bunch of new content with that. And then you also have the new visuals, how it looks, the backgrounds, the character models, all of that has been spruced up. Audio and all that has also been worked on a bit. It is significantly better from a visual standpoint over the original. Now, artistically, some people might like the original more, but just from a graphical tech standpoint, it's definitely above it, and it looks really nice. Rayman Legends is one of the best games that released back on the PS3, 360, Wii U in that generation back in 2013. I think that's around when the game came out. Yeah, 2013 or so. So I do think that them doing this, it makes sense to kind of bring back the brand, put it on modern platforms and all of that. Now, we did get some more information on the game when it comes to the physical release. It is going to cost $39.99, and it is a game key card / game key disc on the Nintendo Switch 2 for the game key card and game key disc on the PlayStation 5. You need the internet to download the rest of the game, even though it's on a PS5 disc. So it's probably just like a small, megabyte key that you have to download, and then all of a sudden it downloads the whole game. So there's really nothing on the disc itself. So it does seem that way. They just kind of cheaped out with that, but you do get Rayman Origins Enhanced Edition, so that is going to be a remaster of the original Rayman Origins game. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.